record on this computer. Beautiful. So how's it going in Provence? Tell me some stories.
Good.
How's
Hi,
it
Matt.
Hi,
Hello,
hi.
Bermuda. Going well. We're right in the middle of the harvest. So when you told me you want to do a Zoom call and not have to drink my own wines, I thought it was a great idea because at the end of the day, it's what you'd like to do after you've been working hard all day.
Have you guys
So,
had a busy one? Was it busy today?
so I had the last 2 days we've been harvesting we start harvesting by machine until 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we do the hand picking later and through the day. And today we paused, but then we had some bottling of a red that was absolutely needed bottling because it'd been out of stock.
Yes.
And I had to do all the sampling. So I go around all the parcels which we think are maturing, and I pick samples of bottles, and I crush them in a little small mini press, and I send those samples off to the lab to have analyzed, so we can decide which parcels we're going to pick when.
Gotcha. Well, are you happy with this year's harvest? Do you think the fruit's looking good, or what's your take on that?
Can I start drinking?
Yeah, fire away. Tell me. Whatever you like.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with the so far. It's I'm actually positively surprised. We had hail 2 years ago, and our vines have suffered the last few years from that hail we had, and and then we had a frost this spring, which killed a lot of the buds. So I thought we were going to have another 30 in a row with a very small harvest again, but it looks like it wasn't as bad as we'd expected. We also had drought throughout the summer. And then we were very fortunate. We got this perfect rainfall that came just over a week ago, 30 millimeters, and that's really given a little sort of refreshing drink of water to our vines for the last leg of the race to finish maturing the grapes. So they were starting to suffer from water stress, and their leaves were going a little bit yellow at the bottom, and the berries are starting to shrivel a little bit, and boom, they're looking healthy again. So I'm very pleased with that.
Gotta love that. I see you have GC in your glass, right?
Yeah.
Is that 2019?
With the GC. I'm assuming we're doing this order. I thought we'd go from
whatever
the...
order you like, whatever order you like. We have the screw cap version in Bermuda, which I love.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you do that because I think it's perfect for our market. Yeah, tell us a little bit about the wine.
So this is the GC. We're looking, so it's funny, this is sort of the entry level to our range, but Jancis Robinson rated this, gave this a 16.5, which was more than the other one, which we were all a little bit baffled by. But it does have a nice amount of roundness. It's got nice volume, and it's good structure. For the local market, they find this a little bit too dark, lacking. It's not quite pale enough. But I think that's a stupid sort of psychological hang-up that some people have. That the paler the better, which is not the case. And but it's a little bit.
You said the local market, is that the French market?
Sorry?
You said the local market, is that the French market or the?
Yeah, the local French.
Got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry, I meant the locals here in the south of France. Yeah, the Provence. It's yeah, I think there's a nice expression of fruit, and it's got nice body, mouth-filling texture. But yeah, compared to the next one, and it doesn't have as much as sort of the citrusy kind of fresh, fruity, the sort of more delicate fruit character. So it's nice and intense. It's a bit
I like it. It's beautiful.
Party girl. I don't know. She's like full of character and energy. She's not the most elegant, of our range, but she's got full of character, and she's a lot of fun to drink.
Yeah. It's got a lot of texture and a lot of life and a lot of body to it, So I was a little bit baffled by that rating because I love your L'Esprit. I think it's so beautiful, but this is just great. We use this for by the glass, and a lot of people love it because it just has body and it's alive, and it's it's a great bottle of wine for sure.
Yeah, we sell a lot to restaurants, and I think with food it's really good because some Provence rosés I find, really go for the very pale and slightly innocuous, sort of watery stuff, and which is fine for just sort of poolside drinking. But when you pair it with food, it kind of disappears. So I think this has got a little bit more character, and especially with food, it stands up well. And so it's nothing like a Tavel or some other regions which make dark rosés. And this you can still drink it. You don't have to have food with it, but it stands up to food better than many rosés from this region, I think.
I want to ask you about the #7 or #7 wine. We don't have any left. It's out of stock, and people really loved it. But I feel like it's almost the polar opposite of this wine.
Exactly.
And is it just do you make that for local for like the Provence market, or what's your thought process behind that wine? And what are your thoughts there on?
It is more driven to the local market. And we sell it mostly retail, so not to restaurants. And so we never sold to supermarkets before, and so that's a bottle we use for selling to supermarkets. Yes. And so it's got the metal. It's a very commercial wine. I find it's very expressive, quite on the sort of the citrus grapefruit character, and so it's very refreshing. But it's much lighter. It's good. It's so in that scale of chugging by the pool or by the sea, the #7 does that job really well. Here, if you're got some nibbles and you're drinking, with a bit of food, then I would prefer this one, the GC. And has more mouth feeling. I personally find this with the grapefruit carrot and the #7. Too much of it can be a little bit nauseating, and I get a little bit tired of it. Whereas,
is it a struggle though for you? Like if you find it nauseating or you find it a bit of a struggle to drink, is it a struggle to make that wine, or are you just saying, okay, like I'm gonna make a wine that might not fit my profile, but I know a lot of other people like to drink that. Is that the mentality?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So we know how to make that style of wine, the #7 style. I mean, we know what the chemical, the aromatic compound is that you get and how you get it, and which grape varieties deliver it, and how do you have to grow them so that they produce a lot of that. They're basically called thiols. Yes. And we know how to get more thiols in our wines. It's a process. So from the vineyard, from the way we grow the vines to our winemaking process. So it was clearly an objective on our part to make a cuvee which was in that style. And then I have to make a cuvee in this style. Then I have an objective to make a cuvee in our Esprit style, which for me is actually, the Esprit is, in a way, it's kind of the ideal combination of both. Yes. There's a little bit of the light, zesty character of the #7, but it also has a little bit more of the creaminess and the structure you have in the GC. So it's kind of the best of both worlds I find in this breed.
Yeah, I agree with you. Whenever I taste that, I love the acidity, I love the freshness, and I love the fruit, and it does sit right in the middle. But for some reason, this wine is just so drinkable and enjoyable, and yeah.
So, I mean, the blending process is just sort of it's a little bit torturous in a way, because you like a little bit of all your different vats, and you I guess I'm also on the sales side, so I can see what people's tastes are, and some people prefer this one for this reason, this one for that one, and here I really, in a way, I want to please everyone, but you can't please everyone. I guess this is the one I most enjoy drinking all around.
You've pleased a lot of people in
Brazil. So you have to please yourself as well.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
If you make yourself happy, I think that overall product will end up making other people happy. And we see by far that's our top seller this summer. People lean on this wine and they love it because, one, it's under screw cap. Two, it's got that freshness. It's easy to drink outside with or without food, but it delivers like some complexity as well, which I think really, when you taste L'Esprit versus any other rosé in the market, I think you get a little bit of everything that puts it at a level above the other ones, in my opinion. You know? Yeah,
Do you get you find this little pepperiness afterwards? I find it's really so you have a little bit of the grapefruit and then sort of some peachiness and then there's a little pepperiness in the back that comes in afterwards, which I find quite interesting.
yeah, it's a great,
And
it's like complexity where you don't see that in so many rosés on the market. I don't know how you get that. If you are you like, what is your winemaking behind this? Are you doing like a lot of skin? I mean, how are you building the texture in this wine, and what do you do?
so yes, it's from the selection of the vines. I mean, basically we vinify every parcel separately, and we're not, as much as we have a scientific approach, we don't master the full science of everything. We can't measure everything. So,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved and good fortune. So different parcels will perform differently in different vintages. We have some idea why and how, but we don't always, we can't understand everything. So, and it's quite complex, but yes, different. And so that's when we blend. So certain parcels we know are going to be very suitable for achieving a certain objective, and so we'll aim for that objective when vinifying them. Other parcels we know are better for a different objective. So like some parcels are going to be good for texture and creaminess, and we're going to really look to get that, and others are going to be great for getting thiols, another one for more varietal fruit characters. And and at the end of the day, when I'm blending, I want to have, you know, all my different ingredients so that I can make these three different wines that are quite distinctive from one another.
How big is your vineyard?
Well, I can show you here.
I've never even asked.
So can you see? So here so basically it all goes around us.
Yes.
This is the lowest parcel, which is quite a big parcel.
Yes.
We have some olive groves in the background over there. And then our vineyard goes all the way over that forest to the trees up on hill in the far distance. I don't know if you can see that.
No, it's a little tough to see the hills in the distance, but yeah.
So then, yeah, so it goes that way, and then it goes behind this house, behind the buildings, it goes towards the south. We have 30 hectares of vines.
Oh, wow. Do you even buy any fruit, or is it all estate fruit for you?
We also buy in some fruit.
Yeah.
And we buy in some fruit, and then and then we also are negotiating. So we buy in wine from other producers, which we blend as well.
Got
But
you.
I'm
assuming you don't buy in any fruit. This is the very bottle of Bermuda. Tell us a little.
The spray and the Aurelia are exclusively from our own vineyards. Yeah.
Yeah. You can taste it. It's beautiful.
And yeah. So should we open the Aurelia?
Yeah. I'm not going to open mine because it's the very last bottle on the island. So you can open yours and tell us what it tastes like. I got to negotiate with you to get some more if I can. Or are you sold out this year?
No. I mean, we only bottled in July, and I'm trying to, you know, make it last until next July.
Yeah.
We only produced 200 cases, so.
Gotcha. I love this one.
So obviously, the story behind this is so the story behind the Aurelia is I find, you know, it gets a bit. I mean, I was yearning to do something slightly different from this sort of so the first two rosés we tasted and the #7, I would kind of put them in the sort of Provençal style bracket of rosés, and we kind of mastered that. Well, I mean, that sounds a bit arrogant, but I mean there's not much more for us to do in that respect, and I was yearning to try and produce something slightly different and to challenge ourselves to try and move into, you know, make rosé evolve from the Provençal style category, and I think it's time for the rosé category to mature, just as red wines and white wines are mature, and there's a huge variety of styles of whites and reds from different regions, and I think for rosé, we need to not just reproduce the Provençal style the same every year. And so here, So I like to describe this a little bit arrogantly as kind of the Meursault of rosé. I'm trying to produce something which is got a lot more creaminess, complexity, but not just the fresh fruit character. So it's a slightly more stewed fruit, and then there's a little bit of oak. So you have some of the sort of sweet spices of the oak. And I find obviously I'm not the only one making this kind of style of rosé, but I find the other executions of a sort of a rosé to age, trying to be a fine wine, tend to either be a little bit too phenolic, a bit too tannic, and so that you lose the elegance. They're a little bit aggressive on the palate, or they tend to be kind of too much oak extract in terms of the sweet spices, and it's a little bit too syrupy.
Yeah.
And I know you probably know which one I'm referring to when I describe that.
We'll leave that unnamed.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
And so I wanted to be. I didn't want to make it too much and try too hard to make it
over the top, basically.
Over the top. Yeah. So I find, and we've been doing this style for quite a while. When I did it in the early 2000s, the market wasn't ready for this, and I made it, and I got a few wine nerds would really like it, but it didn't have broad appeal, and I kind of stopped doing it, and then I resumed again in 2015 when my first daughter was born. Yeah. And that was a very memorable vintage for me because my first child was born during the vintage, and my winemaker thought he had a brain tumor, which he didn't, but he had to quit on the second day of the harvest, and therefore I had no winemaker, and I wanted to be there for when my wife delivered Aurelia, and so it was very stressful, and everything worked out. I made the wine. I was there for the birth, and my wife lives in the UK. So anyways, all worked out in the end. But I lost like 5 kilos in the process, and it was I had to mark the occasion. So it also happened to be the year where our Mourvèdre, because we're a little bit too far north for Mourvèdre to ripen properly. Yeah. And it's like once every 5 years. It's just phenomenal, and the rest of the time I use it for our sparkling rosé because it doesn't quite ripen, and that's ideal for sparkling rosé. You want slightly more acidity and less sugar. Sorry, I have no Rival left, so we can't taste the Rival right now. But so yeah, it happened to be a year where we had great Mourvèdre, and I created the Aurelia cuvée. Yeah. And that was 2015. I did 2016, and we didn't have the right conditions to make a great Aurelia the following years, and so I've resumed it again this year, 2019. So the 2015 and 2016, I actually didn't use any oak. I felt like the oak was this. It was like cheating. You're like, let's make something really special without use of the oak, and I really do like the 2015, 2016. Mm-hmm. But I decided the oak does add something which is valuable, which you cannot get without it. Mm-hmm. And but I've used just a small amount. So it's just it's about 1/3 of it goes into oak barrels. Yes. The rest is in tank, and I just want to give it a little soupçon of something else.
Are those new oak barrels or used, or like
new oak?
New oak.
Still, yeah. Next vintage, because it's the first time I used it, so obviously I just had New York, and the next vintage is going to be I'm going to increase my production, so I'm going to have half new, half 1 year, but I won't keep them for more than 2 vintages, I think.
Got you. Because, we think you should definitely increase your your numbers production on this wine. This is it's such a special wine, and when people try it, it gives you a totally different expression of what rosé is, and different weight, different complexity. It's just a brilliant bottle of wine. And what I noticed with mine is I'll pull a cork the first night, and I'll enjoy a glass. I'll leave it in the fridge for another day, and then the next day it really unravels a little bit further, which is telling me I probably need to lay these down and give them more time to, for some of that oak to kind of incorporate and some softness to come into the wine. But my God, it's a beautiful bottle for sure.
It's funny. There's like an ideal temperature where I think it performs best, and I'm just not disciplined enough to measure the temperature and, you know, have a device to measure it. But I've noticed it different. Sometimes if it's too hot, it gets, the alcohol comes out a little bit. If it's too cold, then you lose. I mean, there's like an ideal. I feel like it's quite temperature sensitive.
Yes.
And so if you have a thermometer and you happen to land on the right temperature, and you have, do please measure it, because I need to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't want to waste it. Like when a wine is too cold, you're just going to lose any complexity, and when it's too warm, it will show too much heat. But you really knocked it out of the park with this wine. I love it. It's a beauty, and that's the last bottle in Bermuda. Until you got to send us some more next shipment.
Yeah. We'll add some more in the next shipment.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm really pleased how it's been going there. It's
yeah, we've had fun summer. We've had a good summer. People are on the island and they're drinking and they're enjoying, and it's really helpful to have a Provence Rosé that and a producer that's willing to put screw cap on the wines. I think I love that. It's a real win for us, because Bermuda lifestyle is so outside. We're on the boats, we're at the beach, we're, you know, just constantly outside. And I think that really helps people enjoy your wines easily in beautiful locations, which doesn't hurt the situation at all. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of screw caps. It's funny how some markets just love it. Some markets don't accept it.
Yeah, do you mind? Can I ask you, like, what percentage of your production goes under screw cap and what goes under cork? You know, offhand.
Oh, half and half.
50-50. Okay.
Yeah, 50-50.
Yeah.
So it's basically all the Scandinavian, UK, Australia, Bermuda, Canada, screw cap, and then the US don't like screw cap. They want corks.
Yes.
And then everything Asia, they just want corks. Obviously Southern Europe want corks. You know, all the traditionalists. So
love that cork.
More traditional, yeah. I think Barbados, they want corks, not screw cap. I might be wrong about that.
It could be. I mean, traditionally, for sure, in Bermuda, in the restaurants, it's a lot easier to sell a bottle of wine when you have to pull the cork out of it and that. And I think people love that. But for simplicity's sake, it hasn't hurt this year at all, and we'll probably stick with screw cap for sure going forward. Except,
unfortunately, I don't offer it on the don't offer it in the radio because it's just there's not enough. Because you have to stop the machine, like switching from one to the others, and we don't make enough to justify doing both. And I don't think that this bottle exists with screw cap. So
yeah, and also with cork, you get a little bit of oxygenation, and if people do decide to age it, at least you see the true sense of where it should go. Whereas most Provence Rosé, you're not really looking to age it. Although I loved your 18s at the start of this season. I thought they were beautiful under screw cap because they were fresh and they had that little extra time in bottle. So it was a great introduction to the market having those 18s in the warehouse early in 2019. Was it 2019? In early 2020, just to be able to showcase what the wines can turn into with a little bit of age on them, you know?
I think there's more and more press about the aging of rosés, and this is something that up until now, the trade have always believed strongly that you have to have the younger the better for rosés. Mm-hmm. And for certain rosés, that's certainly true, but for many, I don't think it's true. And I think certainly for ours, it's not true. I think for example, the #7, that will taste better young, and probably won't be as good because that style with lots of thiols, those are the first things to go. But I think the Esprit, the GC will taste better, you know, will improve. I think 2 years would be, I wouldn't age it for 3 years or 4 years. Mm-hmm. I think the Aurelia definitely will have long aging potential, and it will gain more, it will become interesting. It will change. It won't, I mean, it will lose some aromas and gain others. It will evolve, and I'll be interested in seeing how it evolves. And funnily enough, it feels like it goes. It's not like it has a straight curve. It's sometimes, you know, like I find that because when obviously my own wines, I drink them regularly, but they're like living organisms, and you know, every now and again it will like dip down or just go up, and you're like, oh no, what's happened? What's happened to my wine? You know, and you get all panicky, and then you drink it like 2 months later, and it's back to where it was again, and then 3 months later it will like, oh my god, it's so good now. What happened? And I mean, I guess I'm finely tuned to the variations of my own wines, and obviously I drink my own wines quite often, so I notice these difference, but I really feel like they're like living organisms, and they do these kind of yo-yos. So there's like a general direction, you know. I think kind of peaks at a certain, well, even saying it peaks is not the right, because it will peak for different reasons at different points in time, depending on what you're looking for, and then it will slowly decline, but in that process of that general curve, there's like a little bit of yo-yoing, and that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think that when you probably for you, when you're tasting your own wines all the time, you're going to be super, like, you're going to really focus on that and notice those ups and downs so much more than, than me or general public drinking your wines, and that's got to be the hardest thing about being a winemaker and producing a product and just analyzing it and I don't know how you do that. It's got to be hard work for sure.
I need to, and I force myself. Well, I don't force myself. I don't need to be forced, but I love to drink other people's wines. Keep my palate, open to see what everyone else is doing. I don't want to.
Who's your other favorite producers in Provence, if you don't mind me asking? Do you have any?
No, I mean, we drink other wines. I mean, we always benchmark our wines once or twice a year against the competitions. We'll see which wines are performing well amongst the competition, and or doing something new, and we'll do a blind tasting. So we did, about a month ago, we did a benchmark of the Aurelia against the comparable products of the Aurelia.
Yes.
Drawing from a recent decanter panel. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
On aged rosés, and I felt very pleased with that. So I don't, for just pleasure drinking, I don't really drink the competition from Provence. I prefer to go outside of Provence, and like last night I had a Barbaresco. But I mean, I open to everything, and I just want to mix it up as much as possible, basically.
So how much longer are you going to be down in Provence before you head back up to the UK? You got a couple weeks left.
I want to get most of this harvest behind me. I haven't seen my kids in the UK, and they had to quarantine for 2 weeks. So they have to start school, and so they missed. They had to cut their holiday short by 2 weeks, and so I haven't seen them for a while, and it will be a month probably by the time I get back that I won't have seen them. So I'll probably, hopefully in no more than 2 weeks, I'll be able to head back there, and then I go back and forth
all the time.
The time. Yeah.
This year has been complicated with quarantines and with COVID and with everything. How is it down in Provence right now? I know a lot of people are starting to travel and get moving again. Are you seeing tourists down there, or how's it looking this year?
So there's a lot of French and local Europeans. So we didn't get so many people from outside of Europe coming as we have previous years. Our business here directly at the winery, it's been similar to previous years. We haven't had any dip. I mean, where we've suffered the most we had a big importer in the UK and one in New York who sold mostly to restaurants. And so obviously their business is tanked completely. Yeah. Those are my two biggest dips. But then all my customers like you or others who sell online and direct to retail are been doing extremely well. So, yeah. Okay. So congratulations on.
Hey, we're just happy. We're just happy.
I see this period of COVID, it's a moment of opportunity rather than, I mean, obviously it's a moment of sadness for those who've had any misfortune of losing anyone close to them. But I think in terms of business, I think it's been interesting, and I think it's an opportunity to seize to catch, I think, long-term changes in the market.
Yeah, it's
the way wine is sold and distributed.
Yeah, it's accelerated everything, and it's been just an interesting year all around, and it's forcing us to do things like Zoom meetings rather than me coming down to visit you in Provence. We get to chat online and talk about it. And the cool thing is we'll be able to post this for our customers, and they'll get to learn a little bit more about the wine. So that's a real positive from all of this for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to hold you
Hopefully
too much
you will
longer.
come down here at some point, and
Oh, trust me, they will. You better watch out. Bermudians love to travel.
yeah. We
Yeah.
had we had some friends in Bermuda that came and visited us this summer.
Mary
So
Margaret, right? She came back and said that she visited and had a great time down there. So
yeah, we had a good time with her kids, my kids. It was a lot of fun.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time out from Harvest, and I hope the rest of it goes great.
Thank you, Matt. It has been fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And see you soon.
Talk to you soon.